wonderful crime writing women who specialise in gangland thrillers. They're going to tell us how they do it. Before we come on there, I was asking them exactly how many people they've killed. They didn't. They wouldn't say, but perhaps they will say. I'd like to introduce them first of all as Edie Baylis and
Hello.
Gillian. And Gillian Godden. Now,
Hello. Hello, everybody.
hi. We'll go to Edie first because it's her publication day today. Her book Takeover is out, published today. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it, Edie?
Well, it's a really exciting day for me, so I'm all very happy at the moment. Well, Takeover's the first in the series, the Allegiance series, and it's set in Birmingham. And Birmingham's really close to my heart because I lived there on and off for probably about 15 years. So it was somewhere that I really wanted to write about. Basically, in a nutshell, it's two families that run two separate firms, and they also have two casinos, one each, obviously, and they're strong rivals. Now, this all sounds all very well, but the two main characters, one is a lady called Samantha, and she's a graphic designer. She's got her own life. It's her father's business. And then something happens and she has to step into his shoes and take over running the casino and the firm, which is something that she doesn't really, to be fair, have a clue about. And the other firm are the Stokers, and that main character there is a chap called Sebastian, and he's the eldest son. There's several of the sons in there that run it along with their father. And they're going to take this opportunity to capitalize on Samantha's inexperience in the industry to gain a better foothold in the city. Mm. And that sort of opens up several can of worms. But there's also several characters, and another one of them is a guy called Tom. And he's been up north for several years, and he's come back to Birmingham with the sole reason of getting back what he believes is owed to him. And as the story unfolds, I won't say too much, but there's a lot of dastardly deeds going on, a lot of mistrust, a lot of deceit, and people are left wondering who exactly they can trust with a lot of rumours that are going around. And yes, so it's fast-paced, and it's pretty gritty, and hopefully everybody will like it.
Sounds good. Good. Gillian, you have a book coming out next Wednesday, Diamond Giza.
Yeah.
Want to tell us a little bit about it?
It's out on the 2nd of February. Basically, it's about dazzling but deadly Nick Diamond, suave, handsome, sophisticated lawyer in upper-class Chelsea, but also leads a double life in the slum estates of Glasgow. Now, he'll do anything to keep it under wraps, doesn't want anybody to know who he is or what kind of dealings he does. And when I say he'll do anything to keep his identity under wraps, I mean anything. And so, on the face of it is Mr. Smooth, Mr. Charming, happily married, and he's reached the top of his game. But the other side of him is dark and deadly, Nick Diamond.
Well, I can identify with that completely, actually.
Yeah, I thought you might.
Sounds just like me. Tell me, both of you, how did you get into gangland? I mean, you're crime writers, obviously, and these aren't your first books. How did you get into writing gangland?
Edie?
Okay, well, I suppose my big love of gangland started many moons ago with Martina Cole. I read all of her books. I used to get bought one every year, the hardback for my birthday, and I've read every single one. And then, of course, as time went on with Kimberly Chambers, and I love the way that gangland deals with all the sort of gritty, no hold bars, themes and topics. I just love the pace of them, and I thought I'd love to write books like this. And I also like how it almost, you can encompass I wanted to write so I could encompass the gritty underworld, and as well how those characters can have a knock-on effect on people from normal walks of life as well. And show it that way, and show that not all of these people, some of them have good hearts and others are just despicable and well, we all know what happens to them.
Mhm. Absolutely. Gillian, what about you?
Well, personally, I'm more of I fell in love with gangland with The Godfather and Scarface. I'm more that side. Like Linda LaPlante, I got into gangland in that way.
Mhm.
But basically, I mainly got into writing by I entered a competition. I lost, but I entered it. I lost. Yeah, Norman and his story of racing pigeons beat me, but that's what encouraged me to like start writing. And I thought, well, nobody's going to read it, nobody's going to care. It's going to get swallowed up in Amazon. But for
Yeah.
me, it was getting it out. I thought I'd give it a go. It was more for me than anybody else. And that's The Godfather. I like, as Edie says, you've got, gangland men into absolutely anything, totally despicable. But you also see the other side. They've got a home life. They've got wives. They respect their mothers. They love their families. So it's kind of like a schizophrenic personality.
Yeah.
To them, what they do and their dealings and their crime is like a 9-to-5 job. Their home is their home, and you've got to get that happy medium. They still love people, even though they're despicable people.
Yeah.
And that's what
Yeah.
I like about gangland. It's got that mixture of everything. You've got your little bit of romance, you've got everything in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, my book that came out a couple of weeks ago, Hustle, is the third one in the Glass Family series. And unlike Edie, I don't have a history of reading gangland particularly. I've read some, of course, but not with any special intent. I had an idea that I would write about two brothers and a sister. And the original book was called The Lucky Bastards Club, until Sarah Rutherden, my editor, said, love the book, but we can't have the title because apparently research shows that 15% of people won't pick it up if there's a swear word in the title. So it became Family. I think my wife Christine thought that name up, and it was very appropriate because it turned out the book actually was, and the books have continued to be, as you say, Gillian. You've got the crime and you've got the threats. You've got the romance, or in my case, sex.
Yep.
Uh, so you've got all
Sex
that stuff,
sells.
but you've also got a couple of people who've read some of the books said it's strange that I end up rooting for the bad guys, because the bad guys and it's probably the same with you, the bad guys that are the central characters in the Glass Family series are actually the better of the bad guys, because the other bad guys are really, really, really bad. And of course, because the story is told in part in the first person by Luke Glass, you get his perspective on things. The first person is great, as you know, about getting inside the person's head, and you
Yeah.
really get to develop the characters. So you end up with not only sex and violence, but you end up, again, as you said, you end up with people, and
Yeah.
it's the development of the characters on one hand, and doing what Edie mentioned on the other, keeping that frenetic pace going that Gangland always has. So to try to get that balance right is quite a task.
Yeah.
Um, and if someone writes and said, "I couldn't put it down," as they sometimes do,
That's brilliant.
I feel I've kind of succeeded on that. Um, One of the things I'm interested in, anytime I listen to a panel, anytime I'm at a book event and the writer's there, I always ask this question: what's a typical writing day for you, or a writing week for you? In other words, what's your process? Do you have the idea first, or do you just start writing? Or tell me, how does it go with you two?
Edie?
Gillian, who wants to go
Well,
first?
Edie,
Okay, you mean with when you first start a book, you mean?
yeah, how do you get into it?
Well, I always used to get told off from it at school. You're supposed to plot and, spec out an essay with the start, the beginning, the middle, and the end, and all of that. And it was always something I was absolutely rubbish at doing, because I'd be halfway through my essay and I think, oh no, I should have done this. So how I've always tended to work is that I have a basic idea, I have a basic plot, I have characters. I think, right, they're going to be like this. These are going to be their traits, etc., etc. And I have a rough storyline of where I'm going. And then I start, and X amount of time in, I can see how the subplots are tangenting off, and I think, right, I'm going to go with that. And then I can see the other plots coming in. Sometimes I'll have to go back and add bits in so I can continue the twists throughout the bits I've already written. So in a way, I suppose I make more work for myself, but it works for me. I mean, some people are very, very methodical with how they plan it out, and that's ace. It's like whatever works for someone. But for me, I've always written on the fly, so to speak, and I've always got this thing in the back of my mind thinking, well, I need to make sure that this is going to like path into the next book in the series, you know. And I can see how it's unfolding as I'm writing, and all the bits come in that way for me. So that's the way I do it.
Yeah, good. How long does it take you?
From start to finish, probably about 4 months, and then another, give or take. The majority of it's done a lot quicker than that, but then I'm one of these annoying people that has to go back through and think, oh, I could change that. And that in turn has a knock-on effect throughout the whole thing, because you change one subplot and that, of course, changes everything. So yeah, just when I think I've got it, I think, yes, this, and there I am again. So yeah, about 4 months, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm a bit the same. Gillian, what about you?
I'm really old-fashioned because I'm an old lady. But when I write, I do it with pen and paper first. And so a lot of time, and I really shouldn't say this probably, is I base it on people I know or have known. Or, you know, and it's like I've always known some odd dodgy character or something in the past. And it's just like if I think about him and the people he knew and the things he said, then other bits of interest takes me, and then I can just start fiddling about with my pen and paper before I'm actually ready to type anything. So it's like I'll just go through loads and loads of notepads and like have a fiddle about. And as you say, Edie, you do that little bit and you think, do you know what, he'd do this, and do you know what, I remember his old mother, she was, you know, a bit of a witch, and you start building those characters and the way they are, the way they were. So yeah, I agree. It starts off with that first line, and then, you know, all of a sudden it unfolds. Don't you agree, Owen?
Yeah, I do agree. How I do it is I have a basic notion about what. Normally, I have the opening, the grabber, the bit that if you were only going to read 4 or 5 pages, these are the 4 or 5 pages that would beat your mind up where you're going to read the whole book about. And that kicks us off at the way we want to continue. Then the story starts to unfold again. Christine and I work on these things together. That's very fortunate for me because she's got tons of great ideas. For example, I won't tell you, but towards the end of the current book, Hustle, we had an ending for it. And we were talking about it, having a cup of coffee and talking about the ending. And we were both settled on it. And she said, no, that isn't what happens. And she said the idea. And right away, of course, as you know, right away, you know, yeah, that is the right idea. That's the ending. That's how it should end. So mostly I usually start off quite a cracking pace because I'm really keen and I'm really enthusiastic. And then shortly after that, I start to flag a bit. My belief goes down a little bit. I think this is never going to work. The usual kind of insecurities, I think, that everybody has.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm writing the next book, the follow-on from Hustle, and I'm about 50,000 words in on that, and it's still got a couple of months almost before it's due to be turned in. So I'm expecting that will be there on time. I like to keep my deadlines. As we go on, we don't plot the whole book. I know some people have the whole book mapped out, and good luck to them. You know, the thing about writing, I'm sure you both agree, the thing about writing is it's different for everybody. There's no right way or wrong way. Whatever works for you is fine. At the moment, just yesterday, actually, when we had a plotting session, about 4 ideas about where we were going that we didn't actually know jumped out, and all of a sudden the book takes on a new energy, or maybe I take on a new energy as well, and all of a sudden you think, yeah, this is going to be good. I'm starting to like this. I often wonder too. I wonder too when I have a slow day, when I don't like what I've written. You ever have days when you don't like what you've written?
Yeah. And you tear it all up and go back to square one.
Do
Just
you
put
do
a
that?
marker through it. It's
Do you
rubbish.
do that?
If I don't like it, why should I expect anybody else to? You just
Absolutely.
put a marker through it. Yeah, I've done that.
What have you done, Edie? Have you just said?
Yeah, I get that thing where I write sort of 20, 30, 40,000 words and I think this just isn't working. There's something missing.
Yeah.
So I'll put it down. I'll start doing another part and then I'll pick it back up. I have this habit of waking up in the middle of the night thinking, that's it. And I'll scribble notes. Because like Gillian, I write everything freehand. Absolutely everything.
Oh, really?
I go through so many pens, it's silly. I sit there and I throw them in the bin. I literally get through about one a day, Bic pens, honestly. And I have pads everywhere, the big A4 pads. Then I'll type it up, usually a section by section. Then I get even more irritating because then I start editing it. And then I think about other plots. But if I'm not happy with it, if I think there's just something just isn't, you know, that bit where you think it hasn't got that.
Yeah.
And I will literally start again. I've been known to write 20,000 words and then just totally bin that idea off or completely change the way I was going. Yeah. And then it's right. And then I'm okay. But until that point, it could change in my head. Does that make sense?
But it does make sense. I'll just tell you my story on that. The Glass series, my series is in book 3. The first one was Family. The follow-up was Insider. And I'd written 29,500 words. And we'd worked on it together, and Christine read it from start to finish. And I said, so what do you think? She said, it's good, but it's not the follow-up to the first book. So we scrapped it. We scrapped it, 30,000 words. And you know, I didn't even hesitate, because if someone who's working on it thinks it's not right, it's not right. Yeah. It was just that the tone wasn't right, the voice wasn't the same. These kind of things that it would have been impossible to continue having been told that, really. You know, when this book isn't right, but I'll write another 70,000 words. No, so I had to pack that in. I hope that's the last time that happens, because sometimes one of the things I balk at is just how long it takes. It would be great if you could write it in a couple of afternoons and that was your book. You know?
Finally.
I could go and drink coffee and eat cake in some of these nice places in Glasgow the rest of the time. Unfortunately, it takes a lot longer than that. But we've got a question. We've got a question from Beverly, to both of you, all of us. Do you have a favourite character that you have written in any of your books? Edie?
Oh, well, out of all of them, that would be difficult, because I usually have a favourite character out of every book. But if I'm talking about Takeover, then I think my favourite character would have to be Seb, because he's as hard as nails. He's a really, you know, somebody you wouldn't want to meet down a dark alley, but he really is a good soul. He's got a good heart. He won't put up with any rubbish, but he's not a despicable person. He does bad things, but he's not a horrible person. And I do love him. He's great.
Yeah. What about you, Gillian?
I think Gillian's fallen off the broadcast for a moment. I think internet. Okay, what about you then?
Okay, thank you. I think my favourite character in the Glass series is the older brother Danny Glass, in the first book. Now, Danny is all the things that you mentioned. No, he's not that. He is a despicable character. He is insane. In fact, the book kind of follows his descent into madness. And Luke, his younger brother, is a much more moral character, albeit that he's a gangster and he does some pretty awful things, but he isn't Danny. But the reason I like Danny Glass is because he was a great character to write. because there was a lot of aspects to him that were kind of fun. He's obsessed with 1960s English pop music. He's got a jukebox in his office up above the pub where they work, and he's got all the Kinks and the Stones and all those, and the Who, and he listen to it, and he's got a photograph of although he's a terrible man, he's got a photograph of the Queen on the wall behind him, and so these crazy mix of prejudices and moralities going on, and he was really great fun to write. After that, I think Luke is quite a bit second. I'm more like Luke. I think there's more of me in Luke than there is there's none of me and thankfully there's none of me and Danny. I'm more like Luke, and some of the things he says are some of the kind of things that I would say or have said. And it was he's not quite as he's a cooler guy than his brother Danny. That's where I come in, of course. Thanks for laughing. So Danny Glass was my favourite. Gillian, you dropped off the universe there.
I know, it keeps cutting me out. I think you're actually pressing the button here.
Well, can you hear us? You missed the question. Yeah. The question that Edie and I have both answered is, do you have a favourite character that you have written in any of your books?
Yeah, I quite actually really enjoyed doing the Francesca series. I don't know if you've ever read this, but I did about Tony Lambriano and Francesca, and it was all sort of like related around strip clubs, that kind of thing. But he was, you could go everywhere with him. He started off like in Cardboard City, he really was at grassroots, nothing. So he had a lot of street character. He's got a foster brother, and how they bonded, they worked together. And as time got on and he made his money, he became that lovable rogue, that rascal that all women love and are told to stay away from, And it's, he owns the club, he's got the looks, he's got the charm, but he's got that dark side where he's a total psychopath. But, the loving, fun side of him, that lovable rascal, like I say, is, absolutely great. The guy's a stud. He's just got women on his arm and they absolutely adore him, and everybody loves this blonde Italian. He stands out from everybody, and he had so many places to go. You could have just written it forever. He had so many ways to go, and he was a psychopath, and yet he was a family man in the end. So
I'll tell you, I think I should think about getting into this gangland racket, because all the guys, they pull all the women and they're smooth.
Exactly.
And I could do some of that, I have a question for you. Gillian. Someone wants to ask, and it's a good question. How do you manage to write alongside work?
For me, it's escapism. Obviously, everybody knows I work for the NHS, and at the moment, there's a lot of pressure. And sometimes I'm working 12, maybe 14-hour days.
Really?
And to come away from that, your head's buzzing. It's absolutely buzzing with all kinds of things that you've seen. There's been a lot of isolated, lonely people out there who have been very frightened. And it's up to you as duty of care to your patients to look after them. But there's that stress side as well. You've got all their problems. You're carrying all this because you're seeing it day by day. And so to come home, and I know it sounds horrible, but to come home and just have a cup of coffee and just look at your computer, you're blocking out reality. You're blocking out the world. You're making your own world. You live in your bubble, basically. And so it's total escapism for me. I can come home late at night and I think, I can't sleep because of what I've been doing all day. And the adrenaline's still going and you're still busy. So there's no point in tossing and turning. Make a cuppa, have a bar of chocolate, put your feet up and get your laptop out. And then, I can do it. It's escapism. Because for me, I write better when I'm not thinking about writing. If I can think of a storyline if I'm painting the ceiling or when I'm at work, things will come to me and you think, I could do that. So when I'm not writing, I can write better. I can sort of get little sticky notes and think, I can do that. I'll come back to it later. But basically, Yeah, I'd call it escapism, especially over the last few years.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
unwinds me. You're away from it all, aren't you? You can
yeah,
forget for a while.
yeah. Well, that's the entire opposite from me because I don't have to work anymore. Thank goodness. I retired from my business quite early, and I started to write. I had no plans to write. I just started, and at first I did very long days. Like 10 or 12 hour days, and I discovered that over the long haul that didn't work for me because the days after a 12-hour day, I was just too tired,
Yeah.
mentally exhausted. So I feel do 4, 5, 6 hours days are fine. That's about my stretch on a day. And I have to say that I find that quite taxing at times. What about you, Edie? Do you do how many hours a day?
Well, I've only been doing it full time the last couple of years. Before that, I used to work on the road, as in I used to work all over the country. So I used to have my evenings in a hotel. And
Yeah,
that's when I first started writing, was for something, I've always written bits and bobs anyway, but
mm,
it's quite funny actually, because the first book I ever wrote started off as a series for a group of friends of mine, and I wrote it in a Premier Inn in Nottingham. And every evening I'd go down, have a pint, have my dinner and stuff, and go back to the room and sort of sit there and think, right, I'm going to do something. And every week I'd send them a chapter, and it was them that pushed me in the end to publish it. So that's how it all started.
yeah,
But since all the pandemic thing, luckily I've been able to do this full time, which, because it would have made it almost impossible to drive all over the country, especially when no one could go anywhere. So I've been lucky on that respect. I do it from 9 in the morning till about 5:30 at night.
really?
Yeah, and usually a couple of hours at the weekend as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but some of that is because I'm fiddling, like going over things and being fussy with what I've written rather than physically the writing itself. So
Do you have a word count? Do you say I want to hit 2,000 or something today?
no. If I have one of those days where my mind just isn't in it, I don't even go there, because I'd be writing rubbish and wasting my own time. So those sort of things, I go back to something else that I could be doing, like plotting out something or double checking something. At the moment I've been doing the edits for the second book in my Allegiance series to go back, and I've also been writing the third one. So now I've stopped writing the third one to do the edits for the second, and I'll swap. I'll swap between. So there's always something else if I'm having a stuck day, so to speak, that I can concentrate on. I always think it's a bit fruitless if you're, you do get those days, don't you, where you just, your head's not in it, and you'd be just writing twaddle basically. So I just think, right, I'm on a twaddle day, I'm going to get on with something else. So
Well, I'm the other way. If I've got my ideas and I've got it there, I will just write it as it is. Just carry on writing, and as I say, it's all in rough, it's all in paper. So I'll just carry on, even if I think it's rubbish. I'll carry on because it'll give me ideas. Then when I come to type it, I usually write it about 3 times, but then when I come to type it up, then I'll type it up different, but using those ideas that I've put in paper, So it's like, then I'll type it up. And normally, to be honest, 9 times out of 10, it's a totally different story to what I've got on A4 paper. But I just think, go for it. Don't alter anything. Don't change anything. Just go down that path you're thinking of.
Yeah.
And then when I type it, that's where you're doing your editing. That's where you're doing your rethinking and putting bits in and taking stuff out. But while I'm on that road, I just keep going, and then I'll look at it when it's ready to be typed.
Right. Well, they do say you're telling yourself the story the first time, really.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of true. I didn't read it. I watched an interview with Anne Rice, who died recently. She was asked about her writing process and how many drafts did she write. And she was a bit like you, Gillian. She said, "Well, I don't write in drafts. I just write,
Yeah.
and so do I. And we edit on the way. I know there's things to do, things to change. As Edie was saying, at the end, you have a different idea, or you see that's not right, or that's written well enough, or whatever. But I was pleased to hear that someone didn't actually at that time. I'd never heard that before. All of a sudden, the idea you write a draft and then you go back and write the whole thing again.
Yeah, I do.
Just couldn't have. And I'm also amazed that you two both write longhand. That's
Yeah.
that's astonishing to me, and I couldn't do it because I've got some notes written down here for this interview. You can't see them, and they're only a few lines, but I can't make out what they say because my writing is. I should really have been a doctor. You know,
Well, I must admit, sometimes I can't even read my own writing, because once I get going, I write really fast. So once I've written about a couple of chapters, I have to type it up, because if I leave it a day, I'd think, what on earth does that say? And I find myself looking at it thinking, oh, but yeah, sometimes I have to look several times. I have words that end up just like a line rather than a word.
Do you make yourself markers, Edie? Because like sometimes, as you say, if I don't want to write a whole paragraph, I'll put sort of like pointers of what that paragraph is. You know, it's like Owen walked into the room and saw Edie. Then I'll remember what that is. It's just to remember it, to give you that refreshing. You know?
I have lines going off left, right, and centre going, and with all different coloured pens. I've got bits stuck everywhere, and a book where I've got loads of loose papers chucked in, and they're all over the floor, and it's all chaos and devastation.
Yeah, and I run out of ink, because once I start typing it up, I then print it all out.
And hand edit the printer. Yeah,
and
I do.
That's when I get the marker out and slash it all to pieces. And I'll retype it.
Exactly what I do.
No wonder it takes so long. It's like I could have written 3 books in this time. But
during the first lockdown, we were in Greece, and we didn't know what the strength of the virus was going to be, etc. So we stayed at home almost. We went out to the supermarket, of course. We stayed at home almost all of the time, and we lived on the side of a mountain overlooking the Mediterranean. So in 13 months, I wrote 3 books, just one after the other, which at the end of it, of course, I'm exhausted. If I had to start typing those up, there would still be pieces of paper lying on the floor, because I just couldn't have the energy for it. But I did read that Ian Rankin does a bit like you two both do. He was asked about research, which I'll ask you about in a moment. And he said, well, I don't know what I need to know, so I need a bit about this hospital in here, or I need about this road in here, and move on, rather than do a mountain of research to only use 2 lines of it at the end. So he has all these spaces before he goes back and fills them in. Before I go on to the next question, I just have to answer someone. Someone says, Tracy says to me, please don't kill off any of the family. Well, Tracy, I'll just have to buy the books and find out. That's all I can tell you. I'm making no promises. And the truth is, they probably deserve to die anyway, so let's not mourn them too hard.
Well, it just gets to the point where some of your characters, you know, once you start adding up and you've written so many books, you think, oh my God, they're actually like 70 years old now. It's time they went, you know?
Yeah, well, the thing is...
You can't have a lovable rogue in his 70s, can you?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I'm sure you two are both have found this because you've written What's a Gangland? Yeah. There are only so many permutations that you can get to work without it starting to sound very similar to what you've done before.
Same.
So I haven't decided when, but on the Glass series, I think I want to write a certain amount of books and then bring that to a close. I don't mean kill anyone off necessarily, though we don't know that, but I want to bring it to a close so that I don't start. You see it in James Bond movies, you know, the ending got bigger and bigger and bigger all the time, you know, till it just becomes so fantastical that you can't believe in it anymore. What kind of research do you do, Edie? What kind of research do you do?
I think research depends on what you're writing, especially with various things. I mean, if I'd have to do a lot of research if I was including any sort of like police procedural sort of thing or courtroom, because I don't know anything about that sort of thing at all. And now I'm going to sound like a psycho that I know so much about gangland, but you know what I mean. I think I always check if what you were saying about putting gaps, I always put stuff in brackets and highlight it, going check this. I just write something or other and then check it. If I'm referencing a specific make of car or a brand of tablets, I always check whether it was available at the date the book was set, because people do notice. It's like anything. If somebody knows something about, there's nothing worse than seeing something written that's completely wrong, is there? You know,
that could be the whole book, couldn't it?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I had a lot of experience work-wise prior in the pharmaceuticals, so if there's any sort of reference to medication and chemicals, I'm not too bad with that. Or I have a lot of people I can ask still to check with. Similarly, in one of the books, the guy got shot in the stomach, and I asked a friend of mine who used to work on ICU what the process would be and the healing time and that sort of stuff, just to make sure I got my facts straight, because you want to be correct on things, don't you? You know, with stuff. So so I'll always research things that I don't know or I'm not sure about, always.
You've got to make it believable, otherwise people are not going to read it. You wouldn't read it, I wouldn't.
That's right.
And what kind of research do you do, Gillian?
I go about what interests me, to be honest.
She's gone again.
I have a question for you. Okay, I'll tell you a story about research. There's a hospital in Glasgow that featured in one of my earlier books, and so I did some research on it, and I found out that it started life in a different part of the city where some custodians got together and they raised money and they built it. This is about in 1810 or something, and they called it, in those days they called it.
Sorry, can you see me now?
I can see you. They called this hospital the Glasgow Lunatic Asylum. And after about 10 years, they got a charter from the palace, from the king. So they changed the name to the Royal Glasgow Lunatic Asylum.
Like it.
Question for you. Will you write any more about Julie?
Where's everybody else gone?
Don't know. Gillian, will you ever... There you go.
Right. Sorry about that. I don't know why, but I keep disappearing.
Okay, the question's for you, Gillian. Will you write any more on Julie Gold?
Again, I could go for miles with her, but my other book, Francesca, basically it has a lot of Julie Gold in it. I kind of went backwards. I did like a prequels, basically, because when I wrote my first book, which was Francesca, I thought that was going to be my one and only book, and nobody was ever going to read it. And then when people said, you know, tell me more about him and tell me more about him, I'd already written a lot about Julie Gold. So my back books went into how everybody met. So I suppose, I mean, I've got Gold Digger, Fool's Gold. So Francesca then meets Julie Gold and they form a friendship with their gangland husbands, which is Ralph Gold and Tony Lambriano. So I could do a spin-off from that very easily. I could write another Julie Gold because she's such a sassy blonde and she's got those Liverpool one-liners that everybody loves. You know, she's just got it all the time. She fires it out. And again, she was based on a friend of mine. Oh, it doesn't matter what you say or wherever you are, she's always got that quick one-liner that you would think, oh God, I wish I'd said that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
I do know.
So very easily, you could write another one on Julie Gold. So I'll think about that after I've written the trilogy from Diamond Geezer, because I'm intending that to be 3.
Right. I know what you mean about Julie Gold and her one-liners. In my other series set in Glasgow, the Charlie Cameron series, Charlie has a sidekick called Patrick Logue, and Patrick is a Glasgow white boy. He would kick his granny if the price was right. But he's actually a good guy,
Yeah.
and he's very funny. He gets all the. I don't like television series if it's supposed to be a, a drama and it's too light-hearted. I like my drama to be dramatic, but if there's someone in there with some good lines, that's okay. A bit like your character. So Patrick's that character, and I think when I was started to write about Glasgow, many there's a sense of humor up here. There probably is other places as well, where it's just an intrinsic thing. It's innate to the city that people say amusing things. They don't say them to get a big laugh. They just say them. And this guy, I wanted to try and capture some of that when I was writing about this series. Now, the London series, the Glass series, that's different. There's humor in it, but it's a different kind of humor. It's a kind of gallows humor that you would get from a kind of callous humor that you would get from people who don't think much of life. Life is cheap for them. It's still pretty funny if you're standing back from it, but horrifyingly chilling if you're too close. There's a question for me, and I can't answer it. It says, how many books are you planning in the Glass series, and are you enjoying writing Gangland? Now, is this from Sarah Ritherton? Could this question be from Sarah? Because she's probably wants to know that. And the answer is that I don't know. Got this one, the follow-up to Hustle. It's called Thief. 50,000 words into that. Got the idea for the next one, and I have an idea for one after that. I think if I got to that would be doing well. And I think ideally I would do those, and I would do one more if we could think up something, if we could invent something that tied the whole left the whole thing ending on a note that satisfied everybody. I don't want everybody to be dead. I once had a literary agent. She said, Owen, never kill off your characters. So I think that's probably good advice. Never kill off your characters. You might need them. You might need them someday.
You might want to go back one day.
You might want to go back. What do you think are, another question, what do you think are the key ingredients of a gangland thriller?
It's a melting pot, isn't it? Because I think, you first of all, you've got your main character and you've got all his sidekicks. And then obviously you've got your steamy sex, you've always got to have a bit of lust in there as well.
Oh,
so,
absolutely.
You've got family, you've got lust, you've got crime, you've got, these guys, as you say, as bad as they are, they do have a sense of humor, and they do come out with one-liners that, you just wouldn't think of.
Sure.
Sure. And I think that is your key ingredients. I mean, sometimes I put a one-liner in, and I don't know about you, Owen, Edie, I can make myself laugh. And I must sound like a nutcase sat there, because you think of what they're saying, and you think of the stupidity of it. And I can make myself laugh, which is a bit weird, really. So I won't tell people that.
What about you, Edie?
I think you've got to inject a bit of humour in it, like Gillian says. I mean, even if it's a case of when the characters are thinking to themselves and muttering to themselves about something, and I do have a little chuckle about some of their random thought processes that happen. I think the other sort of things that you need, apart from the fast pace and the violence and the sex and the grittiness, is having a great host of strong characters, ones that you can root for, ones that you can actually absolutely despise, the ones that you want to literally strangle. I mean, I've written some characters where I hate them so much, it annoys me writing them. I'm thinking, I really want to kill you, and I can't because he's still in the book, I think having a nice mix, as well as characters you really want things to go well for them, and whether it will or not, who will know, but it's having a nice balance, isn't it, with the wittiness and the fun and the pace and the host of the cast in there. I think
you can play with it, can't you? You've got a bit of all sorts. Like I say, it's a melting pot. You've got a bit of everything. It's
absolutely
there. Yeah. That's what I like about it.
I tried to keep it out. My battery was running low there, so I had to rush around trying to plug it in. I tried to keep it simple. My characters are interested in power, money, and sex. and that's it. These are good, honest motives for me.
Sounds all right.
And, and when anybody asks me, a friend, so what's the book about? I say sex and extraneous violence and sleazy sex. What's not to like?
Right, exactly.
Question for Edie. Does it feel from Nia? Does it feel intimidating or exciting to be starting a brand new series?
Oh, exciting. It's great to be able to get your teeth into a brand new set of characters. Like we were saying earlier, there's only so long you can keep the same characters going without it becoming a bit drawn out.
Yeah.
So I think you have to draw the line and start a new series, even if you could continue it till the end of time, basically. But no, I love starting the new series, and this one's going to be a 5-book series. Normally I do a 3, so this one gives me even more leeway to have even more characters in it. So yeah, exciting, not intimidating. Fabulous.
Right. Well, good. Well, so you should. I'm sure you'll be very successful with it as well.
Thank you.
A question for everyone, I think. Do you choose your book titles before you start writing?
No.
No.
Well, I did it. I did in the beginning, but in recent times, no, I haven't. I actually started in one book, Games People Play, from the title, because I knew what I wanted it to be. I knew what I wanted it to be about. The Games People Play, from the song by Joe South, you'll probably remember that. I wanted it to be about some pretty terrible games that people do, like murder and the like, down to a wife telling her husband she's going out to a club to make him jealous, when actually she's going down the bingo with her pal, and all those things are in the book. So that started off. From a title. I don't mind though, because I think as you go on writing, you become less precious about these kind of. In the beginning of your first book, the title's very important was to me.
Yeah.
I think I'm less. I think I've never been terribly precious, but I think I'm less and less precious about these details. In the end, the team at Boldwood are terrific, and they all know their stuff, and they're all great professionals and easy to work with. So if they've got a thought on it, it's always worth hearing, I think. You probably think the same.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think the title sometimes comes out of the book. You might use a phrase or something in the book, and suddenly you think, I've got it. That's it. And the fact that I'd called this chap Nick Diamond, and the way he was, Diamond Geezer just seemed to click us like that. I thought, that's it. The next one that I'm doing at the moment is Rough Diamonds.
All
so
right.
that again is going to follow out and keep that diamond theme all the way through it.
That's a good idea. That's a good title.
It's like when I did the gold books, I've got like Fool's Gold, Gold Digger. I just seem to have a habit of keeping that theme all the way through, and then people know that's that book, so that's got to be the sequel to it.
You didn't write Goldilocks and the Three Bears, did you? just a thought. Listen, this is quite hard. And one of the things that amazed me a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I was doing a book event in Waterstones in Sauchiehall Street in Glasgow, and someone in the audience asked my advice on writing, and that was the first time that had actually happened. And I'll tell you what I told them in a minute. But what advice do you have? Start with you, Gillian. What advice do you have for someone who's starting off right now?
Write for yourself.
Yeah.
Basically, write what interests you. Write for yourself. Don't write for other people. Do what you like. Write it for you. That's my thing. And all right, it might be rubbish, but you've got it out of your system. So it's for you. It's not particularly for an audience. If somebody wants to read it, that's a bonus.
Yeah.
If they do, it's like something eating up in you that you've got to get out of your system. So my advice is, it's not a get rich quick scheme. Not unless you write Harry Potter or anything. Being a writer is not a get rich quick scheme. You write it because you enjoy writing and you love it, and that's that's it. It's your hobby. It's what you do. So my advice is to any writer, you know, if you think you want to, then do it. They say we all have a book in us. Write for yourself.
What about you, Edie?
I agree with Gillian. People should write from the heart. You've got to believe in the story. Otherwise, it's never be as writing on demand for what you think other people might want will never be as good as what the story you believe in and that you really want to get your teeth in, and it comes naturally that way. Also, have faith in yourself. You know, don't get disheartened. It's going to be hard. It's hard work. It's not this, you know, lying back in a chaise lounge like a lot of people think. You just drift around occasionally penning a couple of words. It is damn hard. It is definitely a hard job, but it's very enjoyable. But also do it for yourself.
Yeah. I agree. What about you, Owen?
Well, I kind of agree with that. I try to write a book that I would want to read. That's the first thing. And it doesn't really matter the genre. I write crime because when I read, generally it's a crime type book that I read. But for advice to someone who wants to write, thinks they want to be a writer, my advice is show up every day. Sometimes you'll have a great day and you'll have plenty to show for it at the end. Sometimes it'll be one of those down days where there's not much to show, but that doesn't matter. I'm there every day. I have 2 days off a week and I write the rest of the time. Unfortunately, life, as we all know, life gets in the way, and sometimes it doesn't quite work out like that. At the moment, we've just come back from abroad. We had a death in the family. We're moving to a new house. And, you know, I've got to kind of be a wee bit nimble on my feet. But I still try to get the hours in. And I've always got these targets, and I never achieve them. But when I don't achieve them, I reset them and go for them again and don't get there either. But my advice to anybody starting is start writing and keep at it. If you want to be good at anything, you've got to do it all the time. You can't be a great tennis player by reading a book about tennis. You've got to play tennis, or reading a book about playing the piano, or being a great chef by reading cookbooks. You've got to cook. So if you want to be a good writer, you've got to write. And everyone says you've got to read as well. I don't read so much these days because I'm so busy writing. But my advice would be, you know, stick at it. Because you're right, there's a lot of disappointment on the way. For about 8 years, nobody wanted to know me. I couldn't get a hearing. Rejection. And then that just changed. But I kept going. Yeah, I remember one day I got a rejection from a publisher in America, and I went down and wrote 2,200 words. And my wife was amazed at that because I was pretty down. But I still went down. I still turned up. I still showed up. So that would be my advice. Now, what else? What else can I ask you? Okay, if your book is going to be made into a film this is a pretty obvious question. Who would be the star? Who would be the stars in your book? Edie, who would be your stars?
Oh, difficult. I don't watch much telly or films, so I'm not that au fait with a lot of the actors, but I guess somebody like Jason Momoa would play a decent, nice-looking fella as half of the characters in any of the books, really. Some of the characters, he'd have to have his hair cut short. Others, he could leave it long. And it might be a bit of a cliche, but I think Tom Hardy would make a pretty good Seb Stoker in my latest. I mean, as for the ladies, well, Keira Knightley, she's how she looks is what I imagine Sam Reynolds to look in Takeover. That's how I imagine her in my head to look. It's funny, isn't it, how you have a physical picture of what someone looks like. And there's a really despicable character called Tom in Takeover, and I'd love someone like Ray Winstone or someone to play him. I think he'd make a cracking Tom.
Yeah. What about you, Gillian?
Well, as I say, at the moment, to be honest, like I say, Diamond Geezer is based, a lot of it is in Glasgow. So I think sort of like as a hunky man, I'd probably, because I like men with hair. I like a lot of hair. And so I think I'd go for
Too much information.
But so I'd probably go for somebody like Christopher Lambert out of Highlander. You know,
Oh,
he
right,
was
right.
all masculine with, like, you know, muscle ripping and all that kind of thing, with the hair. So I think he would play a very good one. Or your Mel Gibson again. I think he would. But as for my Tony Lambrianou, you know, my blonde, blue-eyed man, I think I'd go for Chris Hemsworth. You know, he played Thor in all the Avengers movies. So I think he would be a good one. I think he's a definite. So I think I'd go down that route, or probably have Sean Connery do, like, you know, the narrating from the Audible for Diamond Geezer, because it's that gravelly voice. It's very nice.
Yeah.
So I think I'd go down that. But I agree with you. You see these people in your head. That's when people say to me, "Aren't you lonely?" And I go,
Oh, she's gone
She's
again.
gone. She's gone. Okay, I was going to tell you something. I see for the Danny Glass character that I spoke about earlier in Family, especially, I see someone like Peter Mullen. He's just got that gravelly, rough. He actually isn't gravelly or rough in real life. Apparently, he's a very, very nice. But you cut off there, John. You're back
I
with
don't
it.
know what's going on here. Yeah, I think Nia keeps kicking me out. Yeah. It's the
I
only
just
way
want to
shut
pick,
me up.
I want to pick you up on your Highlander comment. We were watching Highlander down in Crete. We watched about the first 2 seasons, and it started off good, and we were enjoying it, and then it get more and more and more sex. We
Yeah.
eventually ended up calling it 50 Shades of Tartan.
I think it must be all that fresh air up the kilts or something.
Well,
Yeah.
that going between worlds, it may does strange things to you, but yeah, I was just saying to Edie when you had gone to whatever
weird.
other world is. By the way, you'll get plenty of time to write your books. Just stick with us for another few
Yeah.
minutes. I was suggesting that I would like Peter Mullins to be Danny Glass, and Luke Glass, the younger brother. I saw Richard Madden in that part, but he's got a bit famous for that now. And there's another guy that I quite like, and he's Scottish too. James McAvoy.
Oh, yeah.
If he's a
He's got a
terrific
nice
actor,
voice.
yeah. So I could see him doing something. And we were walking down. There's a character in Insider. Is it Insider? No, it's a character in Hustle. Called Coco, and she's a well-to-do, crazy girl with spiky short hair and takes drugs, and she's wild, wild, wild. And we were walking down Guile Street the other day there, and a girl passed with a young guy, and I said to Chris, "Hey, that's Coco." And she just looked exactly like the character in my head, you know, the chewing gum and the one earring and the spiky hair and the 2 red lipstick and the huge heels. We saw someone walking on these enormous heels the other day there, and one of the heels had actually started to go at an angle. Christine said she looked great when she was just standing, but as soon as she started walking, you thought she was in a circus act or something, you know. Anyway, I'm expecting Nia to come back on and say that's it. Hey, would you like to tell us anything else, Edie, before we go?
Has the pub opened yet? Because it's my celebratory drink time.
Of course. And congratulations to you, and congratulations to you too, Gillian, on Tuesday the 2nd, when you.
Yeah, you're also doing fabulous, Owen.
Thank you very much. We got a piece of good news today from Nia when we were having lunch. A message come through that Hustle has been selected for Prime Global.
Oh, well done.
Fabulous.
Yes, so we're well pleased about that. You know, it just exposes you to so many more, expands your readership and all that kind of thing. But I've enjoyed speaking to you both, by the way.
It's been great. Yeah.
I wish you all the success with your forthcoming publications, and I'm sure that the series will. Now you know what's going to happen. We're all going to be watching how each other's doing in the charts now, aren't we?
Yeah. I feel quite humble. I mean, I'm against two really good authors here, so I'll just stand back and just like I'll still class it as a hobby. To you two, it's a job.
No. We're not buying any of that, are we, Edie?
Nah.
Yeah, it is.
No.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. To you two, it's a job. To me, it's still a hobby. I'm still learning my trade. You two have been doing it ages. I'm still the
How
new
many
kid on
books
the
have
block.
you How many books have you written, Gillian?
About 6, 7.
6, 7. Okay. Edie, how many books have you written in total?
I've done 10 now, plus the one that's be coming out next. So 11, and then there'll be 12.
Right.
What about you, Owen?
I think I've written a couple that never got published when I was beginning. Everything else has been published. I think I've written. I think this book is my 11th. The one I'm writing is the 12th. There's a few more in the pipeline. So I guess I've also rewritten in the early days because I wasn't getting anywhere. I thought I can't be doing this right. So we rewrote book after book to try to make it more on point, more whatever you're searching for, whatever. Of course, the books were fine. I realise that now. It wasn't anything to do with it. It was just I hadn't met the right people yet. Simple as that.
Yeah.
And when you do, you do, and then all of a sudden, you're published, and it's easier than it used to be, even though it still isn't easy. But yeah,
I think
I don't know how many more books have you got in you, though, Gillian? What do you think?
Sorry?
How many more books have you got in you?
Oh, she's gone again.
How about it needs to be you then, doesn't it?
Oh, I've got thousands. I could write forever. I could. I love it. I love bringing the stories to life.
Really?
What about you, Owen?
Well, I don't know. I guess if I got to, she's back. You're back.
I am. Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm like a total blackout. But as
have you got a man there?
Oh, I wish. Yeah. I wish. Talking about all these hot men, Tom Hardy and Christopher Lambert's not doing me any good at all. All I'm going to do now is, because what I was going to ask is, what do you all eat when you're writing? I mean, for me, totally non-PC, really bad. You're going to get a load of complaints, but for me, it's coffee, fags and chocolate. Now, I hold my hands up here and I admit that, but literally that is it. I sit with that at my side and graze as I write. Are you all healthy eaters and you're really good with it?
I'm not a healthy eater particularly, but I don't eat when I'm writing. I just do Diet Coke and fags.
Right, there you go. Go on, Owen, you're going to show us all.
Well, I'm fortunate. I have a woman who deals with all this stuff. I can't remember her name. She's around here somewhere. She brings me cups of coffee and Kit Kats and glasses of water and salads. And she's also my dietitian. So she makes sure that I don't. She says that too much chocolate depresses me. I've never found this to be the case.
No, I ain't found that. No. So really, then you're the same. It's coffee and chocolate. So we're all the same on the same. Yeah.
Absolutely. One final question to you both, if you can take it seriously. Do you see me in any of your books?
Yes, I could, especially with that voice of yours. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like I say, a lot of mine at the moment is based in Glasgow. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, Owen. What got me to like that, I don't know if you've heard of these, but you must have done, was Paul Ferris and Arthur Thompson, two big gangland men in Glasgow and around. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've heard of them. That's what gave me the inspiration to write the books I've written, to be honest. So ideally, you could definitely be in there. You are definitely like my bad guy on the block. You are my street distributor.
But don't make me a psycho, please. Please don't make me.
You could be my friendly distributor, where everybody trusts you because you've got a kind face.
I have got. This is true. I have this.
You've got a kind face, which usually means there's something lethal and dark behind that, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So I could definitely. You could narrate my Audible. You're definitely there. Yeah.
Well, I could do my Sean Connery impersonation and do it.
Good. Yeah. Go on then.
Of course, Gillian.
There you go. Hey.
What do you want me to say?
I could say something rude there, yeah. But you know, we're going soon, so like you know, you can throw me off. But that is a knicker twitcher, Owen. I have to say, that is a definitely good one. Yeah. What about you,
I'll
Edie?
need to practice it then.
Yeah, definitely. No wonder your wife likes you. If you say it like that to her, well, that's it. You're going to be married for life.
Yeah. Any final thoughts? Any final things you'd like to say?
Well, to be honest, I'd just like to say it's been great meeting you guys. You know, it's one thing saying hello on Facebook and on media and liking each other, but it's really nice to actually see the authors, see the face behind the books and get to know everybody. You know,
Okay.
it's like the readers. I like the readers to message me. I like to talk to them because in case you haven't noticed, I never shut up. So I actually like the interaction of it all, and this has been great. And to be given the opportunity and to promote our books, and yeah, we're all trying to make a sale, but at the end of the day, it's because we love writing and we like the idea that somebody wants to read what we write, and that is what makes it special. So it's been great.
Thanks, Gillian. Thank you. It's been good to meet you too. Edie?
Yeah, well, just great to meet you. It's great to put proper faces to the names where you can actually chat rather it being a sort of virtual. I know it's virtual, but it feels more real than on just typing, doesn't it? So it's really nice to be able to chat to you guys, and it makes all the difference. So thank you very much, both of you.
Listen, I echo all that. Great to see the two of you as well. I wish you every success. I don't think you'll need much luck. I think you're probably going to be very successful. I hope you are. I hope we all are. Thanks to Nia and Bolwood for setting it up. And to everyone and anyone who's watched out there and listened out there, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. We'll say good night.
Okay. Yeah.
Bye.
Good night. Thanks.